Welcome back everyone. I am so glad you are here for another lecture in our UPSC Polity series. Today we are covering Chapter 13, Federal System. And I promise you, this chapter is going to completely change how you think about India as a country. Let me start with a question that has actually confused many UPSC aspirants. Is India a federal country or a unitary country? Most of you will say federal. Right? But here is the shocking fact, the word federation does not appear anywhere in the Indian Constitution. Not once. Our Constitution describes India as a union of states. That's it. So what is India then? Federal? Unitary? Something in between. By the end of this lecture, you will have a crystal clear answer. And not just that, you will understand everything about the federal system that UPSC can possibly test you on. Before we begin, the complete PDF notes for Chapter 13 are available on our Telegram channel. The link is in the description below. Join right now and download your notes. Everything I teach today, it is all there in a clean, revision-ready PDF. Okay. Let us begin. Chapter 13, Federal System. Let's go. Federal versus unitary. Political scientists have classified governments into two types, unitary and federal. And the basis of this classification is the nature of relations between the national government and the regional governments. Now what is a unitary government? In a unitary government, all powers are vested in the national government. The regional governments, if they exist at all, derive their authority from the national government. They exist at the pleasure of the national government. The national government is supreme and all-powerful. Examples of unitary countries: Britain, France, Japan, China, Italy, Norway, Sweden. Notice Britain is unitary even though it has Scotland, Wales, and England. Because those regional governments exist because Parliament allows them to, not because the Constitution mandates it. Now what is a federal government? In a federal government, powers are divided between the national government and the regional governments. And this division is done by the Constitution itself, not by the national government's wishes. Both governments operate independently within their own jurisdictions. Examples of federal countries: USA, Switzerland, Australia, Canada, Russia, Brazil, Argentina. Now there is a beautiful etymology here. The word federation comes from the Latin word foedus, which means treaty or agreement. So a federation is essentially a new political state formed through a treaty or an agreement between various units coming together. And in different federations, these units are known by different names. In the USA, they are called states. In Switzerland, cantons. In Canada, provinces. In Russia, republics. In India, we call them states too. Now in a federal model, the national government is known as the federal government or central government or union government. And the regional government is known as the state government or provincial government. Federal versus unitary comparison. This table is very important for prelims. UPSC has directly asked questions based on this comparison. Federal government has dual government, both a national government and a regional government functioning simultaneously. Unitary has only single government, just the national government, with regional bodies created at its discretion. Federal has a written constitution, because the division of powers must be clearly documented. You cannot just say verbally that states get these powers, it must be written. Unitary may have a written constitution like France or an unwritten one like Britain. Federal has clear division of powers between national and regional governments. Unitary has no such division, all powers stay with the national government. Federal has supremacy of constitution, the constitution is the supreme law. Unitary may or may not have constitutional supremacy. Britain, for example, does not have constitutional supremacy because Parliament is supreme there. Federal has a rigid constitution, because if the constitution can be easily changed, the power division can be easily changed, which destroys federalism. Unitary may have rigid or flexible constitution. Federal has an independent judiciary to resolve disputes between the national and regional governments and to protect the constitutional division of powers. Unitary may or may not have independent judiciary. Federal has a bicameral legislature, because the upper house typically represents the states or regional units. Unitary may have bicameral like Britain or unicameral like China. These 7 features of federal government, you must learn them by heart. They are tested in every exam. Federal features of Indian Constitution. There are 7 federal features. Let me explain each one. Feature 1, Dual Polity. The Constitution of India establishes a dual polity. There are 2 sets of governments, one at the union level and one at the state level. Each is endowed with sovereign powers in their respective fields. The Constitution specifies the structure, organization, powers, and functions of both governments. Think of it as 2 parallel governments, the central government running the country, and 28 state governments plus union territories running their respective regions. Both derive their powers directly from the Constitution. Feature 2. Written Constitution. India has a written constitution. In fact, it is the lengthiest written constitution in the world. Originally, it had 395 articles, 8 schedules, and a preamble. At present, after numerous amendments, it consists of about 470 articles, 25 parts, and 12 schedules. The written nature is essential for federalism because the division of powers must be clearly documented. Feature 3. Division of powers. This is the heart of federalism. The 7th schedule of the Constitution divides powers between the center and states into 3 lists. The Union list originally 97 subjects, now 98. These are subjects of national importance where only Parliament can make laws. Defense, foreign affairs, banking, railways, currency. The state list originally 66 subjects, now 59. These are subjects of local or regional importance where only state legislatures can make laws. Police, public health, agriculture, irrigation. The concurrent list originally 47 subjects, now 52. Both center and states can make laws. Education, forests, marriage, contracts. In case of conflict, center's law prevails. And the residuary powers, subjects not mentioned in any of the 3 lists, go to the center. This is different from USA where residuary powers go to the states. This is a very important distinction. Feature 4. Supremacy of Constitution. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Laws enacted by both the center and the states must conform to the Constitution. If any law violates the Constitution, courts can declare it unconstitutional and void. Feature 5. Rigid Constitution. Federal provisions of the Constitution can be amended only by the joint action of both the center and the states. This requires a special majority in Parliament plus approval of at least half the state legislatures. This rigidity protects the federal structure. Feature 6. Independent Judiciary. The Indian Constitution establishes an independent judiciary headed by the Supreme Court at the top. The judiciary serves 2 purposes: 1. To protect the supremacy of the Constitution, and 2. To settle disputes between the center and states through judicial review. Feature 7. Bicameralism. The Indian Parliament consists of 2 houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. The Rajya Sabha is specifically meant to represent the states. However, I want you to note this for the exam: the Rajya Sabha in India is less powerful than the Lok Sabha. This is unlike the American Senate, which is equally powerful to the House of Representatives. Unitary features of Indian Constitution. And this is where it gets really interesting because India has so many unitary features that some scholars have questioned whether India is truly federal at all. Let me take you through each one. Feature 1. Strong center. The Union list has more subjects and more important subjects than the state list. The center also has overriding authority over the concurrent list. If center and state laws conflict, center's law prevails. And residuary powers go to the center. So the center is clearly stronger. Feature 2. States not indestructible. This is a huge difference from true federations. In the USA, you cannot destroy a state without its consent. But in India, Parliament can change the name of a state, change its boundaries, merge states, create new states, or even abolish an existing state by a simple majority. The states have no veto over their own existence. They are not indestructible. This is why Dr. Ambedkar described India as an indestructible union of destructible states. Feature 3. Single Constitution. In most true federations, the states have their own separate constitutions. In the USA, each state has its own constitution. But in India, there is only one constitution for both the center and all the states. The only exception was Jammu and Kashmir, which had its own constitution under Article 370, but that was abrogated in 2019. Now India has only one constitution. Feature 4. Flexibility of Constitution. The bulk of the constitution can be amended by Parliament alone, either by simple majority or special majority. Only a very small portion of federal provisions needs state ratification. So the center has significant power to change the constitution unilaterally. Feature 5. No equality of state representation. In the USA, every state gets exactly 2 Senate seats regardless of population. California with 40 million people and Wyoming with 500,000 people both get 2 Senate seats. That is equal representation. But in India, Rajya Sabha membership varies from 1 to 31 based on the population of the state. Uttar Pradesh gets 31 seats, small states get 1 seat. No equal representation. Feature 6. Emergency provisions. This is perhaps the most unitary feature. During a national emergency, financial emergency, or state emergency, the center becomes all-powerful. States come under center's control. The federal character is virtually suspended. This has no parallel in true federal systems. Feature 7. Single citizenship. India has only one citizenship, Indian citizenship. There is no separate state citizenship. You cannot be a citizen of Maharashtra or citizen of Tamil Nadu separately. In the USA, citizens have both American citizenship and citizenship of their state. India's single citizenship is a unitary feature. Feature 8, Integrated Judiciary. India has a single, integrated judicial system. There is only one judiciary for the entire country, with the Supreme Court at the top. In the USA, there is a separate federal judicial system and separate state judicial systems. India's integrated judiciary is a unitary feature. Feature 9, All India Services. The IS, IPS, and IFS officers are common to both the center and states. They are recruited and controlled by the center. This gives the center significant control over state administration through these officers. Feature 10, Integrated Audit Machinery. The Controller and Auditor General of India audits the accounts of both the central government and all state governments. One body for everyone, a unitary feature. Feature 11, Parliament's authority over state list. Under certain circumstances, like when Rajya Sabha passes a resolution saying a state list subject. 2. Feature 12, Appointment of Governor. The governor of each state is appointed by the president, meaning effectively by the center. The governor acts as an agent of the center in the state. This gives the center significant influence over state governments. Feature 13, Integrated Election Machinery. The Election Commission of India conducts elections for both parliament and state legislatures. In the USA, there are separate election machineries for federal and state elections. India's single election commission is a unitary feature. Feature 14, Veto over state bills. The governor can reserve certain state bills for the president's consideration. And the president enjoys absolute veto over these reserved bills. This is a significant power of the center over state legislation. Critical evaluation, is India truly federal? Different scholars have described India's federal system in completely different ways. And this shows just how unique India's constitution is. Let me take you through what these great scholars said. K.C. Weir, the famous constitutional scholar, described India as a quasi-federal state. He said India is federal in form but unitary in spirit. He went even further and said the Indian Union is a unitary state with subsidiary federal features. Very strong words, he basically said India is more unitary than federal. Granville Austin, the author of the Indian Constitution, cornerstone of a nation called Indian Federalism Cooperative Federalism. He said India is mainly federal. He took a more positive view of India's federalism. Ivor Jennings termed the Indian system as a federation with a strong centralizing tendency. He acknowledged federalism but highlighted the strong pull towards the center. Paul Appleby on the other hand characterized India as extremely federal. He was at the other end of the spectrum. Morris Jones called it bargaining federalism. K. Santhanam pointed out two specific factors that are responsible for increasing the unitary features. First, the dominance of the center in the financial sphere. The states are financially dependent on the center. And second, the emergence of a powerful planning commission which controlled developmental grants to the states. Now replaced by Niti Aayog in 2015. And Dr. B.R. Ambedkar himself said in the Constituent Assembly, the Constitution is a federal constitution as it establishes a dual polity. But he also said India's constitution is a case sui generis, meaning unique in character. Neither purely federal nor purely unitary. And now the most important judicial statement, in the S.R. Bomai case of 1994, the Supreme Court declared that federalism is a basic feature of the Indian constitution and a part of the basic structure. So even Parliament cannot destroy the federal character of India. The conclusion? India is neither purely federal like the USA nor purely unitary like Britain. India is a unique blend, federal in structure with unitary in spirit. A union of states that leans towards the center but gives meaningful autonomy to the states. Indian federalism versus Canadian model. India's federal system is based on the Canadian model, not the American model. Why Canadian? There are two main reasons. First, how India was formed. Federations can be formed in two ways. Either by integration, where small independent units come together to form a big union. This is how the USA was formed. 13 independent colonies came together in 1787 and formed the United States of America. They gave up some sovereignty to create a federal government. Or a federation can be formed by disintegration, where a big unitary structure breaks up into smaller units. This is how India was formed. The British India was one single territory which was reorganized into states after independence. India did not form by independent units agreeing to come together. Canada was also formed by disintegration. Originally provinces of British Canada came together as provinces under a strong central government. So India resembles Canada more. Second, the term used. The Canadian Constitution uses the term union rather than federation. And so does India. Article 1 calls India a union of states, not a federation of states. And because of these two similarities, formation by disintegration and preference for union, the Indian federal system is said to be based on the Canadian model. Dr. Ambedkar made this very clear in the Constituent Assembly. He said, the Indian Federation is not the result of an agreement among the states like the American Federation. The states in India have no right to secede from the Federation. The Indian Federation is indestructible. Critical evaluation of federal system. How federal is India really in practice? India has deviated from the traditional federalism found in USA, Switzerland, and Australia. It has incorporated a large number of non-federal or unitary features. The division of powers is clearly tilted in favor of the center. The union list has more subjects and more important subjects. The center has overriding authority. Residuary powers go to the center. So the conclusion from Laxmikanth is clear: India is a federal state with subsidiary unitary features, or what K.C. were called quasi-federal. K. Santhanam identified two specific problems that increase unitary tendencies in practice. First, the financial dependence of states on the center. States depend heavily on central grants and transfers for their budgets. This gives the center enormous leverage. Second, the now replaced Planning Commission, which controlled developmental grants and planning for states, was a very powerful centralizing force. Now Niti Aayog has replaced it. But the S.R. Bommai case of 1994 gave a very important protection. The Supreme Court declared that federalism is a basic feature of the Constitution. The center cannot completely destroy the federal structure. Even during emergency, there are limits. And in practice, there are ongoing tensions in Indian federalism. Territorial disputes between states, like the Karnataka-Maharashtra dispute over Belgaum, disputes over river water sharing like Kaveri between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, regional parties demanding more autonomy, financial negotiations between center and states, these are all ongoing realities of Indian federalism. Granville Austin described this as cooperative federalism, where the center and states try to cooperate rather than dominate each other. That is the ideal. Whether it is achieved in practice is a different debate. Rapid revision time. Let us go through every key point for Chapter 13. Unitary, all powers with national government. Federal powers divided by Constitution. Foedus, Latin for treaty. Unitary countries: Britain, France, Japan, China. Federal countries: USA, Switzerland, Australia, Canada. Indian Constitution has both federal and unitary features. Federal features 7. Unitary features 14. More unitary features than federal. Union list 98 subjects. State list 59 subjects. Concurrent list 52 subjects. Residuary powers, center. India formed by disintegration, Canadian model. Not American model, which was integration. Article 1, India is union of states. The word federation does not appear in our constitution. Ambedkar, indestructible union of destructible states. K.C. Weir, quasi-federal. Granville Austin, cooperative federalism. Ivor Jennings, strong centralizing tendency. S.R. Bommai case 1994, federalism is basic structure. Single citizenship, unitary feature. Rajya Sabha, less powerful than Lok Sabha, unlike US Senate. States not indestructible. Governor, center's agent. Now exam traps, federation word is not in constitution. Residuary powers go to center, not states. India follows Canadian, not American model. No secession rights. Single citizenship, not dual. Rajya Sabha is less powerful, not equal. Chapter 13, Federal System, complete. And that is Chapter 13, Federal System, completely done. India's federal system is truly one of a kind. No other country in the world has a federal system quite like ours. Dr. Ambedkar called it sui generis, unique in character. It is not the American Federation where states are nearly sovereign. It is not the British unitary system where regional governments exist at Parliament's pleasure. India is something in between, a strong union that gives meaningful autonomy to its states, while keeping the nation together through emergency provisions, all India services, and a powerful center. Was this the right design for India? Given our diversity, our 28 states, over 22 official languages, hundreds of dialects, multiple religions, different cultures, I think our founding fathers made an incredibly wise choice. A federation strong enough to hold India together, flexible enough to accommodate India's diversity. Now the full PDF notes for Chapter 13 are on our Telegram channel, link in the description. Everything we covered today, federal features, unitary features, comparison tables, scholar quotes, and exam traps, all in one clean PDF. Subscribe and hit the bell icon so you are notified when Chapter 14, Center-State Relations, goes live. That is the next chapter and it builds directly on everything we learned today. Thank you so much for watching. Share this with your UPSC friends. Drop your doubts in the comments. I read and reply to every single comment. Until the next lecture, keep studying, keep going. Jai Hind.